Hello, family. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I hope you will join me on my show tonight at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is Wednesday, December the 4th, 2024. You will be able to speak to Rod Steele, also known as Patriot Rod Steele. He is a licensed and certified financial advisor and financial expert. He's had his licenses and credentials for decades, and he's been involved in the revaluation of currencies, the global wealth transference, and the Great Reset for many, many years. He used to have his own radio show where he talked about humanitarian projects and how there would be trillions of dollars injected into the global economy. However, over the course of time, he has gotten very ill. However, he is our financial wealth expert over at the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show, and he's decided to come back and give us live updates about what's going on in the geopolitical scene and in the financial landscape all over the globe, and how this will make you and me and everybody all across the globe extremely wealthy. He's going to talk about the revaluation of currencies such as the Iraqi dinar, the Vietnamese dong, the Indonesian rupiah, the Indian rupee, Afghanistani currency, and others as well. So, any of you who have been invested in those currencies or in those countries, you want to watch this, including the Zimbabwean Zim, which is a bond. And if you look at the top left hand corner of the Zimbabwean Zim, it says that it is a government bond that promises to pay the bearer upon demand. Now, all we're waiting for is for the green light. In other words, we're waiting for all these nations to say, now it's time to go. All they've been waiting for, family, is for every single nation to agree to stop trading with the United States dollar because that was attached to the old world system, which enslaved us. That dollar, the United States petrodollar, was attached to the United States Incorporated, which is not our lawful government, but in fact, a group of bloodline families that attached themselves to their own financial system, also known as the Federal Reserve Central Banking System. Now, this particular government is not a real government. This group of bloodline families usurped authority first from the Moroccan dynasty here over in America, where the indigenous people had their own government, their own constitution for the republic, and their own currency. And this Moroccan dynasty in America, also known as Turtle Island, the North Gate, Northwest Africa, Amorica, and many other names, had agreements with all countries all over the world, as our dynasty was large and expansive and very, very prosperous and wealthy. However, with this group of bloodline families, many of whom are not human, took over our republic, they then spread out outside of the Moroccan dynasty and attached themselves to all governments and enslaved all peoples all across the globe. Now, this is very important for you to know because once the deep state or this nefarious government, this group of bloodline families is dismantled, then the governments will be returned back to the Americans here in this country, on this continent, I should say, and the governments will be returned back to we the people all across the globe, as well as our common law or constitutional law being restored, meaning now we'll return back to the laws of the land and the gold standard. So the gold standard was our financial system for many, many thousands of years. We've always treasured gold and we've always appreciated gold, diamonds, silver, all other precious metals too, such as palladium and platinum. Why? Not only because those were used as money, but they have very, very metaphysical powers. Precious metals are precious for a reason, my darlings. Precious metals raise your vibrational frequencies. They can detect any ailments in your body and address certain ailments. In fact, we have silver and gold receptors in our brain and other places in our body. And this is why certain metaphysicians and some contemporary doctors actually use healing modalities that include gold, silver, copper, and other precious metals. And this is why when you have aches and pains, some of your doctors would tell you to wear copper. You see, my darlings, precious metals heal, cure, and address ailments. They also cause you to have more psychedelic powers. And in fact, if you feel your vibrations low or you feel your emotional state, being very low or depressed, if you wear real gold, silver, and other precious metals, you will see that your emotions begin to raise up. And even if you have headaches, some metaphysicians encourage you to sleep on precious metals. As a matter of fact, when my emotions are low, I don't feel good in my body, there have been times I've put silver coins underneath my body or a silver or gold bar underneath my body or on my body, and I can feel the changes in my body because this is such an important thing that most people don't know about. Again, you have silver and gold receptors in your body. Did you know that the Anunnaki, another interdimensional being, came to America according to the Sumerian and other texts that predate the Bible in order to mine gold? Now, the first beings that they used here were called the Ijiji, but the Ijijis were overworked and they looked similar to humans, but not quite human. And it was just too much for them. And they began to revolt against the Anunnaki. So the Anunnaki created, according to legend, a human race using some of the pre-human people here and their own genetics. So you have such Anunnaki such as Enki and Enlil and their sister who nobody wants to talk about, Ninhursag, and somebody called her Nimna, to create this new race to mine the gold so that the Anunnaki can go back to their planet and use the gold to cure their atmosphere. Gold is that powerful. They came all the way from their particular planet to come here to mine gold. Their planet was Nibiru, according to legend. So now we see why this entity has come here to mine gold and to exploit the resources here. Well, then they left us here, according to legend, and many of us no longer could tap into our higher selves because the beings that created us, according to legend, had left. So now we're not figuring out how can we ascend, how can we reach our God selves, because we are gods since we were created in the image of these gods. Remember, they said, let us create man and woman in our own image. Who was us, my darlings? Us, according to some legends, were actually a group of interdimensional beings. Some say they were the Nephilim, some say they were other angels or extraterrestrials. Well, once they left and we were down here trying to figure out how to, make a sense of all of this that was going on, how do you create culture? How do you live when you're a new being? Well, allegedly, according to legend, one of the brothers felt very, very sorry that they had left us here, and he came down and taught religion. Okay, because he wanted to be worshipped. Some people say he is the Yahweh. I can't remember if that was Enki or Enlil, but he created religion. He taught it to the people, the new humans there. He taught culture. He taught many other things. He taught a lot of things in terms of how to build civilizations. And we here in the Moroccan dynasty had some of the most amazing, most beautiful civilizations, all that all over the world that anybody could ever imagine. Well, of course, it was one of the best civilizations all over the world because it was allegedly the first. And then the people here migrated out to different parts of the world and taught uh, their offspring how to create, how to have culture, how to worship, how to cook foods, etc., etc. So now that we have been left down here, you have to remember that this was a group of new beings that were here. But the brothers that came here to seed the earth here did not get permission from their father Anu. Anunnakis, their father name was Anu. And because he did not get permission from Inky and Enlil did not get permission from their father Anu to create human beings here and to create a whole civilization here, Anu was upset. And according to legend, not only was he upset, but the entire Galactic Federation, because you have interdimensional beings or extraterrestrial beings that actually are a part of a federation or a conglomerate of nations in their respective dimensions that usually meet at a particular time to decide what they're going to do. Well, the council was against seeding humans here because they didn't get permission to do so. And now that you've seeded the humans here, you have to allow them to grow, to evolve, and to utilize the full span of their brain and to ascend to higher dimensions because you have created gods. And that's why the biblical scripture And the Christian text, and on about 2 occasions, says, "Ye are gods," because you were literally created in the image of these beings. So the Galactic Federation decided that it was not fair to leave these humans down here, and they had to do something about it. Well, according to legend, it was either by permission of the council or just because they wanted to do it themselves. One of the brothers created a great flood to get rid of us because he was not supposed to seed us here. So that flood, many of you have heard, is called the Deluge in Sumerian text and text that predates the Bible. And in the Bible, or the King James Version of the Christian Bible, it's called the Great Flood or Noah's Flood. And that's where Noah had to build the ark. Well, Noah's building the ark is something that we actually see in Sumerian text or text that predates the Bible, and it talks about how the Anunnaki came back and said, "You know what? We tried to destroy all of humanity, but let's try to save a remnant of them because this is our work. This is the creation of our essence, so we can't just get rid of them." So they created the ark and they saved a remnant of the humans here and then left us here to evolve and to figure things out. Well, we were upset about being left here. We created a ladder to try to reach those high dimensional beings, the high dimensional spaces, because we didn't want to be left alone, right? We weren't asked to be here. So that's where you get the story of the Tower of Babylon or the Babel Tower. And in order to keep us suppressed and keep us from ascending, these beings confused our language. So now we had different languages and we could not figure out how to reach the heavens or how to ascend in consciousness or how to use the full expansive parts of our brain and how to ascend or evolve. Well, we just kind of got stuck here. And while we were stuck here, now with different languages, different cultures, and living in utter confusion, according to legend, okay, fact check me, use your own discernment, and do your own research. Now you had other interdimensional beings say, aha, we have new beings that are on this planet called planet Earth. They have gold, silver, palladium, platinum, and all type of resources. They have expansive civilizations. They've been taught by the Anunnaki and maybe even other interdimensional beings how to live this glamorous, glorious life, but they're not even like us. They have their own will, they have their own mind, they have these beautiful, amazing uh, characteristics that we don't have. They even have a soul, they emote, they have feelings. And so these other interdimensional beings who were jealous, allegedly, according to legend, or at least confused about why we were different from they, came here and installed certain programs, according to the story, to keep us confused. And not only did it cause or instill or install certain programs or certain paradigms or ideologies such as hatred, sexism, racism, and all type of other isms, and pitting us against each other in order to keep us devolved. But they said if we keep them in that perpetual state of enslavement and oppression, we can control them. So you saw all of these different extraterrestrial, interdimensional beings coming here to utilize our resource and to do certain things to us, as well as make agreement with the governments that we had in place to keep us oppressed in exchange for these interdimensional beings giving these government governing entities power, wealth. Okay, now when they gave them power and wealth, they inducted them into secret societies and had them to do certain things like rituals dealing with children and organs, etc., etc. And if they participated in them, they gave them wealth, and then they had to oppress us. Well, now let's fast forward because I only have a few more minutes, where we are now coming to a time where people are getting tired of the oppression and enslavement and are tired of the financial enslavement because these interdimensional beings also made agreements with government people to keep us financially enslaved. And so, having done that, all over the world, there has come a time where the cries of the children have reached the ears of Source and the interdimensional beings that seated us here. And the cries of the humans are saying, we, or humans or God beings that are here saying, no, we're ready to ascend. At the same time, we're moving into the age of Aquarius, which is an age of awakening and Christ consciousness. This is the second coming of Christ. And that means your Christ consciousness, your Christos consciousness, your corona, Corona, your crown. Corona means gold, as in crown, as in gold chakra, as in the golden area of your brain or golden energy center has now been awakened, and you're in alignment with source. And now you're saying, I will be God. I will walk in my Godship. I will command my power. I command my peace. I command my prosperity. I command wealth and abundance. I command healing. I command everlasting life for me, my children, and all of my posterity, meaning my future generations. I command my ascension. And as such, now that we're no longer on our knees begging as we did to a God outside of ourselves during a Piscean area, now we're recognizing our God selves and we are commanding in this new era. And so now that we've entered this golden era, and now that we've entered Christos consciousness, everything that's been done to enslave us has been destroyed. The yokes of bondage have been destroyed and broken perpetually forever. And now we're ascending to our God selves. And now Source has come back, and the interdimensional beings that loved us and what waited for us to call on them for help, and the ancestors have returned to liberate all of us all across the globe. So now you're going to return to your governments that were indigenous and that were wholesome and that were prosperous and that were peaceful. And you're going to recognize and achieve and experience planetary peace perpetually, and wealth and abundance. And each and every one of you, including me, will be extremely wealthy. So join me today at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the amazing Patriot Rod Steele to talk about one aspect of our liberation, and that is financial liberation, abundance, and prosperity. I will see you on the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show on YouTube, Rumble, X, meaning Twitter, and Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn Live today, Wednesday, December 4th, 2024, 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mwah.